Hello to my subscribers on YouTube. This is Lapse of Apathy. Um, I've been watching a lot of videos on YouTube about feminism uh, for the past 3 days now because my school has shut down due to the polar vortex, as many of you people have heard, that's basically happened within the northeastern United States. Uh, it makes me a little bit stir crazy, but thankfully, due to these very angering subjects, I'd had enough time to keep my brain occupied with other than video games that I've either completed or have become kind of bored of, for a better term word, even though I bought Batman Arkham Asylum and Batman Arkham City. They're proving to be less than noteworthy in my book, at least. I do not very much like those games that much. They're not as enticing as the other games that I've gotten, like Assassin's Creed 3, which many people have not liked that much, and Assassin's Creed 4, which I have to say is so much better than the third one and has so much better everything. And this is not a gaming video. This is not a video describing which video games I think are very fascinating and very fun, although I probably could go on for hours about that right now. This is I guess it's a little bit more of a mundane topic, like the topics that I usually cover in my videos. Um, I like to say feminism is a big subject that basically came out in during the second wave of feminism that was really meant to address certain issues that we had during our post-war society after World War II, where things had basically calmed down a little bit after the whole big scuffle with Hitler and his fucking fascist regime trying to take over the goddamn world. Um, and before the era of actually engaging in the Cold War with Russia, due to the rising tensions of political mind games between Soviet Russia and their rising superpower and their communist regime, and the United States and their capital industrial regime. And of course, during the 1950s, capitalism and communism were basically duking it out, due to the rise of the Red Terror that was basically perpetrated by a right-wing radical movement to oust any communists or communist sympathizers in the American film industry. Now, of course, that's a totally different subject, and I'm not sure on the interrelatedness that these two subjects have, but I know that during the 1950s, a lot of weird sort of things happen, basically warping our mindset, making us believe that everything is supposed to be a leave it the beaver type of lifestyle where men are basically the providers of the family and women are the people of the family that stay home and take care of the children and yada yada yada. And I think it's all basically fucking horseshit. But it worked back then, and obviously it created this aura um, in a lot of conservatives' minds that the 1950s was actually, the golden ages, and that's how society's supposed to work, and that's how society should have fucking stayed. Although some points could be made that it was kind of better in the 1950s. Some other points could be made that the 1950s Leave It to Beaver lifestyle would have never actually served as any good function in the United States after the 1950s, and it was all weird little fucking black and white city version of the fucking Borg all the time. That's just in my mind. But anyway, going off on a tangent, uh, quote-unquote radical feminism was basically just trying to point out that the 1950s lifestyle of the men being the providers of the household and the woman staying in was all bullshit. Because there's certain women that wanted to fucking provide for the family, and they were trying to turn the tables saying that equality is not served here at all, which they were completely true about that statement. Women were seen as docile housewives that were supposed to do what they were told, and men were always seen as the people who brought bacon onto the table so the rest of the family could eat and everything else like that. And feminists basically said that this shit is detrimental to society, and that it makes it so it continues a cycle of women being subjugated and being thought as only the people who are supposed to stay at home and take care of the children, and that's where they should stay. And the men were always the providers, and they were always the ones that were fucking getting jobs and providing for their family. What women were trying to do during the second feminist movement, I at least think, was that they were trying to even the playing field. They were basically just trying to say that men and women are equal. It wasn't even a movement for women. It was really a movement for both men and women. Because some men would want to stay at home and cook and everything else like that, but society would have fucking flipped them off and said, no, that's a woman's thing to do. You shouldn't do that. And of course, during the 1990s, there's been a fucking rise of metrosexuals. That was the new term in the 90s. Everyone thought that men who were staying at home, and there were stay-at-home dads, and they were cooking for their family and everything else like that. That was the rise of the metrosexual. Because that was actually a woman's job, but because of the feminist movement during the 1960s and the late 1950s, thankfully that has gone away, and finally in the 1990s, that became an alternative lifestyle instead of a totally acceptable, non-weird-ass lifestyle that was there in the first place. And in the 1990s, it was a weird lifestyle, but it was fine because it was just alternative, which is also fucking bullshit. This was the second feminist movement. Most people call it the second feminist movement. Most people call it the second wave feminism. But in my mind, that was first wave feminism. Many people call first wave feminism the women's suffrage movement that happened in the 1930s, which just had women basically saying, hey, we want more rights to vote for whoever we want, because we should have as much equal rights as the men who have their rights to vote. Of course, obviously, children weren't putting in the mix because children are not old enough to participate in the certain realm of politics, nor would they want to in the first place, because politics is boring and bland and stale, and who fucking cares if you're a fucking 16-year-old kid? You're under your parents' wings, and you don't care about that shit. You're caring about your other preteen, teenager shit anyway. But that's what the first feminist movement, which I would like to say that was the women's suffrage movement. Because the women's suffrage movement was not about any radical cultural change or any radical cultural development to make people and society think a different way. It was just a way to get equal rights where there was none. It was only for women because women were the only ones that were fucking subjugated at this time. Now, of course, in the late 90s and early 00s, or the noughties, uh, the rise of third wave feminism had came about. First, it was all about the equal pay for people and everything else like that Obama promised to address. And of course, a lot of people fell in with this sort of idea. Yes, of course, women should get equal pay and blah, 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 blah. And I, of course, have fell into this movement because it just seems absurdly reasonable. Unfortunately, for many people, they did not understand why women, on average, get paid less than men. And the majority of the reason it has basically propped up on the internet for people to research, still people choose to ignore the research. Women usually get paid 75 cents on the dollar of what men usually get paid because of their career choices. Men are usually going into the science and the technology, engineering, and mathematics fields, where those fields are mainly fields that are paid more than the humanities studies that women usually choose. I could have chosen to get in history, which is my real passion, but instead I chose my basic fallback, which is technology. Originally, I was going to get into computer science, and later down the road, I figured because of the math, and it was too hard, I chose to go with strict logic and technical skills, and thus I'm in the IT industry, and I'm going for a bachelor's in information technology, hopefully to later on get a professional job in the field of IT, either doing something business related as a CIO years in the future when I am a senior in the industry, or possibly as a system administrator or network administrator engineer or something like that. You look at the salaries of people who get into science and technology and English and mathematics, named the STEM jobs, they usually get more money. People in humanities, like history, or social studies, or English, something like that, they usually get into teaching. And most of these people that do get into teaching, they don't care about the money as often. They want to help people. So they get into those sort of fields, and they make less money. Most people don't really care if they're going to get into English, if they're going to get into some teaching career, because they're really out there to help people out, and they enjoy it, because that's usually a woman's job. Women, biologically speaking, like to take care of people, like to take care mainly of their offspring and other people as well. Men, primarily, biologically speaking, do not. Primarily, men are the people who are going out and hunting, and today's equivalent of hunting is getting as much dinner as possible. So yes, that's where third wave feminism has stemmed from in the late 90s, early noughties, and from the mid noughties and onward, probably until right at this instant, January 22nd, 2014. It's been bastardized to the point where they're trying to bring back second wave feminism and recharge it in a new way. See, we don't live in a 50s lifestyle anymore, thank God. Thanks partially due to second wave feminism, and thanks partially due to our obvious regeneration or rebirth or evolution of thinking from the stupid leave it to beaver lifestyle into the lifestyle where we live in now, where both men and women could either stay at home or be the providers of the family, without actually getting any feedback saying that this is stupid. Unfortunately, due to the third wave feminist movement, what we had is a bunch of fucking stupid people calling themselves feminists, over-analyzing the small and petty differences in our society as we are now, inflating it to a certain point where they're making a big deal of nothing and basically making the big problems in our society, like economic inequality and the corporate state and general welfare, being bastardized to make poor people basically reliant upon the government and make them infantile in their ways of thinking, because they think that the government is going to give them money and they don't want to work later on. It's basically taking all of these problems that we have now that are given legitimate arguments by both the left and the right and the libertarians and the authoritarian statists or whatever, and basically just clumped all together and said, that's the patriarchy. Talking about a tinfoil hat. At least conspiracy theorists have a reason to say, we think it's the government doing this shit. The feminists will say, oh, it's the patriarchy, and basically blame it on men in general, or some male-dominated society that they fucking came up with in their little fucking brains. And then they say they're not sexist, but they're for equality at the same time of saying, yeah, we're not sexist, we're for equality, but we think that men are the fault of fucking everything. You know, this is really, really fucking stupid. You know, second wave feminism was about equality. First wave feminism was basically just trying to get women the right to voting. Or as I will go back and say again, women's suffrage movement was to make sure that women were put on the even field of men. Second wave feminism was to transform public opinion of the stupid fucking leave it to beaver lifestyle, making it sure that men and women can play whatever role they want to play without being demonized by society. And third wave feminism takes all of our problems that we have now and blames it on men, basically wanting to castrate men and make them think that it's wrong to look at a chick's boobs because a chick might be wearing some provocative clothing that might want to make men look at chicks' boobs, because men, women, and humans in general are biologically disposed to look at naughty bits of a human being, whether it be man or woman. And then they also completely forget the idea that there are men out there that don't even have a sexual attraction to women. And because of men having a sexual attraction, obviously it's a bad thing because men look at women's tits. But then they don't realize the fact, or they totally ignore the fact, that there are some men out there that are only attracted to other men, exclusively. Or there are some women out there that are attracted to other women. Basically just leaving the gay the gay rights movement, but just basically out there. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if there's homosexuals out there. It doesn't matter if there's homosexual men out there. They're still the problem. Even though they're not attracted to women in any way. I just have to really say this to the feminists out there that might be viewing my video. Fuck off. Seriously. You're taking a huge problem and you're minuscule. You have a minuscule understanding of what it is, turning it into something completely different and just fucking it up because you want to further your agenda of not making men and women equal, not making it so that what your predecessors did in the 1930s, where you make women have the ability to be on the same footing as men. No. You want to demonize men. You want to fucking cut them out of society and make them fucking disposable. That's all you fucking want to do. No matter their gender, no matter their orientation to who they might like, sexual orientation, even though some men only like men exclusively, it doesn't matter because it's their fault anyway because they're a fucking man. Really get this through your fucking head. You're the ones that are perpetrating this sexism, not the men, not the fucking patriarchy. It's your fucking ineptitude to understand that both men and women are equally capable of doing whatever the fuck they want. And we should be treated as fucking equals. And the second feminist movement was fine. It made things equal in the way where you're trying to fucking bring it back. When the first wave feminism movement was to make it sure that women were be able to get equal in the first place, and rights and laws and everything else like that. But you totally disregard this. You totally disregard this whole entire statement that men and women are equal, not only rights-wise because of the women's suffrage movement, but because of the second feminist movement, making it so that men and women are actually able to do exactly the same thing. What you want to do now is you want to make it sure that men and women are exactly the same, that brain status, and everyone becomes fucking feminine. You're so fucking stupid. You don't understand and realize how fucking awesome we have it now. Fuck off. Seriously.